This is my 2006 KTM 200 XCW. Some of you might recall I bought this bike back in May for $2,000, which was a phenomenal deal for this bike, especially considering its condition. I promptly took it for a ride where I narrowly escaped death by side-by-side.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Follow along as I rebuild this bike, making some significant improvements along the way. The goal is to build this thing as capable as possible for some nasty, technical hard enduro to see what we can achieve on a small bore two-stroke while maintaining the ability to rip some fast, flowy XC single track. I'll walk you through the planned upgrades just after we tear this bike down. Let's do it. Alright, she's stripped down to the frame, so what are we going to do with this thing? Well, I didn't ride this thing quite as much as I thought I would this summer because I continually chose my KTM 350. While part of that is because I love that motor, a huge factor is the front end and controls of that bike. I'm talking suspension, front brake, and clutch. Once you've ridden a more modern bike, you get spoiled. Everything has gotten so refined over the last few years that it's hard to go back. I started doing some digging to see if anyone had swapped a new front end onto an older KTM chassis, and this is where I have a fun small world story. A couple months ago, I got a message from a girl named Taylor who I went to high school with, and she is dating a racer named Jesse Ansley. Apparently, he stumbled upon one of my builds on YouTube and she heard my name and said, "Hey, I think I went to high school with him." So I ended up following Jesse, who is a multi-time GNCC XC3 champion, And I scrolled through his page and saw that he built a 2000 KTM 250 with a newer KTM front end. I messaged him asking how the fitment worked, if he had to do any modifications, and he was super helpful. And he actually just switched from riding for KTM to riding for Kawasaki. So he's getting rid of that bike and is actually sending me those triple clamps. So super cool that those clamps are going from one old KTM to another. If you would like to check him out, I will link his pages down below. He makes YouTube videos about his races, he has an Instagram page, and he sells merch on his website. So go show Jesse some love. Stoked to be running those clamps. So this bike is getting updated triple clamps as well as a set of air forks. Now I know people tend to be very opinionated about air forks. Are they the best forks around? Absolutely not. Do I like them? Yes. Unlike the CR250 build where that bike was going to one of you and I wasn't particularly concerned about the budget, this bike does have some budget involved. The goal is to make some significant improvements but not break the bank. So I got a set of almost brand new air forks from MX Locker for $540 delivered, which is really hard to beat. In fact, those forks I bought are actually on my KTM 350 right now because my KTM 350 forks are due for a rebuild. Beside the point, we're gonna chat with Daniel Schmidt at DSC Motorsports and see what sort of magic he can work in the suspension department. With a bit of a revalve, the air forks can be made pretty darn good. And while they're not really anyone's first choice for hard enduro, like I said, I want to maintain some of the XC roots for this bike. I still like going fast, despite the fact that we'll be putting this bike through some treacherous rock gardens next summer. At the end of the day, in my opinion, the air forks will still be a significant improvement over the 2006 KTM forks, despite maybe not being the best choice for hard enduro. Another reason I chose air forks is because if I ever want to upgrade them further, it is still possible by dropping some 6500 cartridges in there, which will make them quite good for hard enduro. So I've got options. Now this 200 does have a Brembo front brake, but it is seriously lacking compared to the front brakes on the newer bikes. The overall feel and stopping power has come a long way, so I get a 2023 front brake for this bike. The clutch that comes stock on this bike is a Magura hydraulic clutch, both master cylinder and slave cylinder. Now again, the Magura hydraulic clutch has come a long way over the last 20 years. The one we put on the CR250 is incredible, but the Magura on this bike doesn't compare to the modern Brembo on my 2022 KTM 350. So I'd like to see if it's possible to use a Brembo master cylinder with that Magura slave cylinder. With all of those things together, the triple clamps, the forks, the front brake, and the clutch, the front end of this thing will look and feel just like a modern KTM. And I honestly can't stress enough how much that will improve the overall riding experience on this motorcycle. On top of all this, we're looking at a new fuel tank and foot pegs from IMS. You guys saw there was a Titan strap around the stock tank. The cap on the tank is not stock, but it's a horrible design. I actually had it fall off once while I was riding. It leaks fuel everywhere, so that's what the Titan strap was on there for. The IMS tank will obviously solve that problem, but also improve our fuel capacity. I'll be running a soft bar clamp from Ermosi. I've been really excited to try one of these. It's a really unique design that's supposed to reduce vibration and arm pump. Really nice to have on one of these older two-strokes that tends to vibrate a little bit more than the modern ones. Ermosi is also sending over a set of their enduro wheels, which should hold up to the test of anything we put them through. Really excited to get those. In terms of the power plant, we'll replace a few components, including the top end. As of right now, I do not plan to split the cases unless I see something concerning with the crank when I pull that top end. At the time of pulling this motor, the bike runs just fine, so it's really not necessary or cost effective to split the cases and start replacing parts that are still good. One of the most exciting upgrades will be switching from that stock carburetor to a smart carb. The CR250 was my first time running a smart carb, and I could not believe the power delivery and throttle response, so I can't wait to see what the power delivery feels like with a smart carb on this bike. Then of course, we'll make her pretty with some plastics from MX Plastics and graphics from Decal Works. So there are of course more bits and pieces that will come together, but that is the overview of the plan for this build. It has been many years since I have built one of my own bikes after riding it. Generally, I'm buying old blown up bikes that I've never seen run and then building them from the ground up. So it's really exciting to take a bike that I've actually ridden, decide what could be improved, and then make that happen. So this is just one of many projects in the works for the new year. So if you haven't clicked that subscribe button already, please be sure to do so. Remember, I will be bringing one of you guys out here to ride with my friends and I when I reach 100,000 subscribers. A massive thank you for all of the incredible support, and stay tuned for episode 2.